Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Smile. Today's guest is Belinda Stark. Belinda is a wife and a mother of 2 grown sons and 3 cherished mini dash hounds. And we can see Frankie could tell straight away that you were a dog person because he's put himself right on your lap there. Her story is one of resilience, courage, and tenacity, overcoming divorce, 4 bouts of depression, including hospitalisation after the birth of her second son, breast cancer, and confronting a drinking problem in midlife. At 55, she pivoted from running a successful fashion retail and e-commerce business, which she had for 11 years, to a new career as a midlife alcohol and empowerment coach. Inspired by her own transformative journey of redefining her relationship with alcohol, she undertook studies to become a qualified midlife coach. Now, Belinda empowers women to embrace the next stages of life, breaking free from grey area drinking and living a life with full confidence, vitality, and self-compassion. I am so excited to have Belinda here in the studio today. So let's kick it off. Belinda, welcome to Behind the Smile. How are you today?
Oh, thank you, Ash, and thank you so much for having me. I'm very well today. Thank you. Very well.
Wonderful.
It's a beautiful day. Sun shines out.
I know, it's gorgeous. We were just commenting it was freezing over the weekend and now it's absolutely beautiful, which I feel like is always the way. But I guess the beautiful thing about what you and I do these days is that we're not sort of bound by the constructs of weekend, week. I mean, I was able to get out this morning and go for a beautiful walk in the sunshine, which was so nice. Although I also walked over the weekend in the hail. I'm trying to do 10K steps a day at the moment. And so I'm really determined. So it's like rain, hail or shine. But I'm telling you what, it's not very pleasant in the hail. So very grateful for the sunshine to be here today. Exactly.
Melbourne.
Good old Melbourne. We're used to it by now. Belinda, I'd love for our audience to get to know who you are. So let's kick it off with some really easy questions. I would love to know, where do you live? What does an average day look like for you? And what do you do for fun?
Okay, I live in Mount Martha on the beautiful Mornington Peninsula, so about an hour away from the city and nice and close to the beach. And an average day for me, well, is there such a thing? Really, come on. But if we average it out, well, I wake, my husband's a garden designer and on the tools too, so he's up pretty early. I cuddle my 3 dogs.
Oh, what are their names?
There's Bonnie, Billy and Bella. And they're 3 girls because having 2 man children and a husband, I needed to even up
You needed feminine energy in the house.
Absolutely, right? So, no, I wake and I really try to take a breath and close my eyes and I just say to myself, I actually got this off when I was in the early days of sobriety off a lady that did some beautiful Reiki with me. And I say to myself, I am love, I am light, I am Belinda.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I thought that was too.
What do you find happens to you when you repeat that affirmation before you even sort of get out of bed?
It's sort of, even if you end up having an itchy, yucky day or something, it just sets you up slightly. It's just calm. It helps me just start the day calm. Even if I'm lying there thinking, I've got to do this, it's just take a breath. It just can't. It's just the first step to being calm. So if I don't get time to meditate or journal or do all the things, no Patsy Perfect here, I've done that.
I love that. It's so beautiful and so simple to do. I often talk to my clients about if you don't have time for a full morning routine, even just taking a body scan before you get out of bed. It's just that moment of mindfulness. For me, one thing I try to do is before I get out of bed, I lie there for a minute or 2 and I just play the tape forward on the day ahead. What have I got coming up? Will there be anything? Is there anything that's going to be maybe a little bit tricky, challenging? How do I want to show up as well? And really being conscious of that. How do I want to show up in my life today? What are the things I need to do? And finding that time for me. Where am I going to take those moments to pause, to come back to self, even if it is just a microsecond throughout the day? I love it. I love it. I love it. What do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? I love my walking. I love my meditation. When I can, fit it in. I love to read. And it's interesting because prior to sobriety, I wasn't reading because, let's face it, you can't really concentrate on a book when you're slightly numb.
Forget what you've read.
Exactly, just like TV. Can't even see the words.
Yes.
So, but when I've reflected back during my sobriety and looked at my childhood and my teen years, etc. I loved reading and I loved writing, and it's interesting that has all come back to me now. So yeah, definitely some reading, writing, exercising, movement.
Yeah.
And I love a holiday. Who doesn't love a
Oh
holiday?
my gosh, you're my girl. We're literally, I'm like, yes, tick, tick, tick. These are my priorities. What are you reading at the moment?
I'm reading. I'm a bit of a book whore, and I buy a lot of books, and I struggle because then I sort of think, well, what mood am I in today? What mood am I into that? Am I wanting a novel? Am I wanting this? But I am reading Let Them by Mel Robbins.
How is it?
Yeah,
I've
it's
heard
good.
great things.
It's good.
Yeah, nice.
She's amazing.
She is incredible.
Her story.
Yeah, she's sober.
Yeah. And it all, in her 40s, midlife. So I'm reading that, and I've just finished Girl Crush, Get Rich, Lucky Bitch.
Oh,
Denise Duffield Thomas.
I love her books.
Yes,
I love her as well.
Girl Crush, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
And I've just finished that, and I've loved that. She's actually agreed to be on my podcast this year, and I'm like, oh.
How exciting.
So they're my two books at the moment.
Oh, that's awesome. So good. Do you ever read any fiction, or are you always reading for education purposes?
If I'm in the mood, it's always memoirs.
Yes.
Love a memoir.
Me too.
I like a bit of fiction, but I just find that memoir, I just love people's stories.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love it. Oh my gosh, you've just inspired me. I'm reading as well at the moment. I've just fallen back in love with fiction recently from the Empyrean series. It's like about dragons and all of this stuff that I would normally never go.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm such a non-fiction, like I read for education purposes, but it's helped me fall back in love with reading.
Yeah.
And I'm finding that I'll choose to read rather than watch TV.
Absolutely.
Like I'm getting that same enjoyment.
Absolutely.
And yeah, anyway. Okay. Belinda, I've asked you to bring in a photo today, and this photo is from a time in your life when you were hiding behind a smile. So you were presenting one version of yourself to everyone around you, but the truth was you were really struggling on the inside. Could you please describe for those listening, what are we looking at in this photo? I'll bring it up on the screen now, but if you're driving or you don't have the screen in front of you, Belinda, please describe and then let us know what was going on for you at that time in your life.
I'm just got this big smile, and behind it is, let's get drunk, let's keep drinking, let's have so much fun. This is what life's about. But behind that smile, I was quite unhappy. My second son, who you mentioned, I did struggle with a lot in his first year and was hospitalised. He was in that photo. He was there, and he was 2 or 3 years old, and I still probably wanted to escape from him, and I love him and what have you, but just maybe escaping from responsibilities. Yeah. So I wasn't, behind that smile, I'm not happy, but numbing it rather than going deeper, I just wasn't ready.
Yeah. So would you have described that period after your second son as postnatal depression? And for people who aren't super familiar with what that looks like, what that term is, can you describe for us a little bit more about like what that looked like on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah. So with my first son, who's now nearly 30, can't believe that, I did suffer with it. But with Max, we thought, my psychiatrist, everyone thought that I'd be fine because I'd done the work. And I don't know that the work ever finishes though. And that, it would all be good. But Max was very different to Mitch in that he was quite demanding straight away. And I remember the nurses saying, first day, oh, he's a very sucky baby, so we're going to give him a dummy, but we don't recommend dummies, but he's just so sucky. And to a girl that's just had a baby that's pretty sensitive in that, it's like, far out, I've got a sucky baby. So pretty much instantly we knew something was up, and I just struggled. I just couldn't, I couldn't do anything. And I would cry and cry and cry. I just couldn't function for me. But it's very different for everyone because we're all different. But I think also one of my main reasons was I didn't have support. My hubby's he's an only child, and sadly his mum passed away I never met her. So before Max was born. And then my parents were travelling a lot, and Andy's dad, he was working, and plus he wasn't very maternal. So I didn't really have any support.
Yeah.
And that's a big reason how you can fall into it.
And did you at the time, like, were you scared? Because I know when I've had bouts of depression, I don't have children and I've never experienced postnatal, but I know there's similarities. When I've been in those dark periods, one of the most terrifying parts of that is not knowing when it's going to end and feeling like it never will.
Yeah, despair.
Yeah. And just that sense of hopelessness. And I imagine then feeling that, and then there's a baby crying in the other room and you're like, I have to get up. Like I just saw it on your face then. Like it must have just been so hard.
And that's where the hospital was amazing.
Yeah. What hospital did you go to?
I was I'm not sure that it's around anymore. It's called Albert Road Clinic.
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah,
Yeah, we drove past it last night actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a parent-infant unit. My husband would come up every night, which was lovely. The psychiatric nurses were incredible. And I just felt supported.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so do you think that was like, how do I phrase this? Was that the thing that made it better? Or was it medication, or was it a mixture of everything?
It was a mixture of both.
Yeah.
But the thing I was going to say too is you can sort of become quite institutionalized in that you're there. I was there for the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of Max's life. And it's pretty scary going home. So because you're in your little cocoon.
Yeah.
And that was hard. And I did struggle, and I did go back into hospital. Yeah. So that was really hard. But, getting back to that no light at the end of the tunnel, I remember my psychiatrist coming in and sitting with me, and I just said, why has it come back? Just crying and crying and crying. So, no, it is, there is light, even if you don't know when you're in it.
Yeah.
But just keep
going. Yeah. Wow. I know a few people who have experienced it recently, and it just, it's heartbreaking to watch, because I think that's the other thing with any mental health disorder really, is that we don't choose it.
Oh,
no. It's the same with addiction.
I wouldn't wish it on. Yeah.
Like
anyone.
you don't choose it, and and all you want is to be better, but sometimes it does take time,
But even in because Max is nearly 19 now, even since when I was in hospital to now, it's talked about more. It's like with sobriety, it's talked about more. Everything's talked about.
Not as shameful,
which is wonderful. And it's diagnosed more, because I think, if I look back to my mother, for sure she had it. And I think a lot of women then had it too, but it wasn't,
talked about.
No.
How long did that period of darkness stay with you?
Look, probably on and off the first 12 months of his life. Medications I was on, and then it came to a point where, I'll never forget this, they sat me down and they said, look, nothing seems to be really working. We think you're going to have ECT, so electroconvulsive therapy. And that freaked the hell out of me. And I remember ringing my mum, because they were still travelling, just bawling and saying, this is what's going to happen. And so they came home. And then the doctors, I think it was, I can't remember, they had some sort of meeting, and they said, look, we can give you one last try before ECT, because I really didn't want it, of course. We'll put you on lithium. And it worked.
Great.
Yeah.
How long did you stay on lithium for?
Probably a good 18 months or so.
Yeah.
And it's you've got to monitor it. You've got to have your bloods done. But it saved me. It got me better.
I don't know a lot about lithium. What's the difference between that and, say, an SSRI or
to be honest, I'm not really sure now either. I would have known 19 years ago and Googled everything, and the doctors would have told me. Yeah. But I really can't say.
You just know that it worked.
Yeah, educated, I can't say.
Yeah. Were you drinking throughout that period of time?
Yeah.
Did the doctors ever ask?
No. Isn't that interesting? Like, I know I was the one drinking.
Yeah.
But even the hospital, you were allowed, you could leave your baby and you could go out for dinner. And my hubby and I would, and I would have a couple of glasses of wine. And I mean, I'm on all this medication. I'm still doing it. And yep, no one asked. And it's not their fault. I mean, I'm an adult, but I just thought that was interesting.
Well, I imagine that the rhetoric as well back then might have still been 19 years ago, 2 glasses of red wine at night is good for you.
Yeah.
So you're thinking,
that's okay.
There's no harm in this. And yet it's probably counteracting the efficacy of the medication. And I know that was, so I was on Lexapro for about a year before I got sober because my panic attacks were so intense and my anxiety. And you know, I didn't realize at the time that because I'd never spoken to my doctor about how much alcohol I was drinking.
But they don't ask either.
No, it just wasn't a conversation.
Which is so interesting.
So interesting. And especially, you know, like the premise of this podcast, hiding behind a smile, you know, I understand because I didn't look like an alcoholic, but even more of a reason, I guess, to probe and ask the questions. And it was really, you know, like it's no surprise that when I got sober, I came off medication, you know, because it was one, you know, that was the thing essentially that was causing the anxiety. So I want to know a little bit more about your childhood, because I always find that it can often uncover some of the early habits and behaviours that then flow into this cycle of addiction. So, Belinda, can you share with me a little bit about your childhood? What was your upbringing like? And were there any defining moments throughout that you think contributed to you being a person that started to seek things outside of themselves to feel better?
Good question. My childhood, like I've dealt with a lot of it in therapy. I'm a team extreme, all or nothing. I think a lot of people that have a drinking issue are. And I probably get that from my dad. But as a child, I was really happy. I loved to dance. Like, it's funny. I've got all my VHS, my family's VHS tapes recently changed on USB sticks.
Oh, awesome.
So I get to see them next week. But I tell you, I'll be doing some tears as well, I bet you. So, yeah, Mum and Dad used to say, you never stop dancing. You're an entertainer. You're this, you're that. So, yeah, I was happy. I think then when probably a big thing was Dad was a builder. So we moved, went to 8 different primary schools.
Wow.
Yeah. So we would move a lot. We moved to Queensland to try and live, but my younger sister got sick with asthma. She was born premature, very sick. They didn't think she'd make it. And I think that was a real change in dynamics. And I felt that, she was the priority.
How old were you when she was born?
I was 4.5.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would have been huge.
Yeah, huge. Huge for Mum. And I'm sure there was PND there. Yeah.
And like you said, when your sister comes along and she's then sick, all of a sudden, because you're still a child, and all of a sudden all of the attention and the family dynamic is on her, that would have been so confusing for you.
Yeah, it was. It was. And I spent a lot of time with my maternal grandma, a lot of time with her.
And when did the performer come out?
Probably straight away.
Yeah.
But then what I was going to get back to too was that's when I think because Mum was stressed, you're never going to be a dancer, so we might as well stop that now that you're in year 7. You know, you've got to focus on your studies, your this, your that. I just Mum changed in that her focus was on my younger sister, and I sort of had to fend for myself, but there was a lot of critical stuff coming up too. You know, the inner critic.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I can relate to that
and
so
much. It's definitely from my mum and from my maternal side. Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to go here now, but I also feel like it might be a conversation for later, but I'm just going to go there now.
Go for it.
What specifically have you done to heal that part of you?
A lot of therapy. Yeah.
So just talking about it, or what?
Talking and medication and you know, the work on yourself, going inside, a lot of forgiveness, seeing other point of view as far as my mum's concerned, but definitely a lot of self-inquiry, going deep, and a lot of forgiveness and knowing why I am the person I am, and that voice, where that voice came from, which was my mum and then my ex-husband. But a lot, probably 30 years of therapy, and what prompted me to face it and get my head out of the sand was when I had my first boy. And that's, I know you hear women say all the time, you change as a person when you become a mother, but you do. But a lot changed, not just the becoming a mother. There was a lot to face and attack.
Yeah. Were you ready to become a mum, or was it something that kind of just happened because that's what you do? You get married, you have the kids.
It was the dream for me. I wanted a white picket fence house and my hubby and 2 beautiful children. But when I had my older boy Mitch, my priorities changed as a woman compared to my husband's.
Yeah.
And that was a big turning point too.
Yeah. Okay, let me go back now. Thank you for answering that. When did you start drinking?
I'm a late bloomer.
Yeah.
So I didn't start drinking heavily till I went through my divorce with my first husband.
Right.
So that was around 30. So I wasn't a teenage drinker. You know, I'd try the drink in the bar at home or your friend's bar, adult parents' bars. But no, I wasn't a drinker at all. And then I met my husband, and he was a professional sportsman. So we would travel a lot, and I was his PA, PR, and we would have drinks, but nothing, was under control. But when we were going through the divorce, that's when I hit the bottle hard. And then I fell into depression again, got better again. But yeah, alcohol has been a part of my life, in and out, probably for well over 20 years. Yeah.
And do you remember the turning point with that drinking? Like, was there a decision that was made around your consumption, or was it something that kind of snuck up on you?
I think we sort of know, but we sort of put it under the carpet. We're maybe not ready to face it. And I had no rock bottom or anything like that. I think in 2022, Christmas 2022, I just got sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And the other thing was that my older boy had settled down with a gorgeous girl, and I thought, you know what, if they marry or have children, I don't know that he'd want me to look after their children. So that was sort of a thing too, his age. Plus, I woke up shaking, and I have had shakes before, and you try to, Debbie denial, say it's something else, low blood sugar.
Oh, I haven't had enough to eat.
Yeah, exactly right. But I also got these like vertigo, like the room was spinning. So I think they were the 3 main things that made me want to give it a go.
Yeah.
But give it a real go. I think I'd tried in the past haphazardly, but this time I wanted to give it a go. And I actually sent a text out to Mitch, my older boy, my hubby, and my best friend, saying, "Look, I know I've got a drinking problem, and if I'm really honest, I've had it for quite some time. I want to stop. I'm really scared, and I want your support." And then straight away, my beautiful boy rang me straight away, and he said, "Mum, I'm so proud of you for telling me that." And he said, "I never thought you would have admitted you had an issue." And that sort of knocks you for 6 too. Because it's like, well, I didn't think he thought I had an issue, because I thought I was hiding it together behind the smile.
Yeah. Oh, wow. What inspired you to send that message to the 3 people that you like your accountability buddies?
Well, yeah, and at the time I didn't think it was for accountability. It was just a reaching out to them. But in hindsight, it was definitely for accountability and definitely facing it, because I'd never done that before or said anything to anyone before about I've got a problem, etc., etc. This was it.
Now, you've also battled and survived breast cancer. Well, at what point in your life did that show up?
Well, I like to say I'm a mixed bag of lollies, because there's lots of different things I've filled into 55 years. That came up. Do you want the whole story?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. In 2013, I went to a school luncheon, a spring luncheon, and a lady spoke, a school mum, and she spoke about breast cancer and her story, and beautiful Louise, and she said, if you don't take anything away with today, please just take away the phone number for Breast Screen Australia, which I'm pretty sure is 13 20 50. Please do that. And it must have stuck in my head. So I rang and I made an appointment for February of 2014. Anyway, Christmas came and I also bought a business. I bought a retail business, which it was more recycled clothes, and I bought it to build it up to a fashion, new fashion store, etc. And the settlement for that business was the 3rd of the 3rd. And so February was coming up, and I said, just luckily speaking to Mum, and I said, Mum, I've got so much to do, the to-do list, you put yourself at the bottom. I thought I'll cancel the mammogram and I'll, do it another time. And she said, oh, no, love, why don't you just do it, tick it off your list. So I did it. And then 2 weeks into owning my store, I remember I was out the front on a high, loving life, love fashion, colour, and I got a call from Breast Screen Australia, and they said, we need you to come to the hospital. We need to take another look. And I said, well, why? What? Started bawling, and the nurse on the phone said, why are you crying? I said, well, I might have cancer, catastrophizing, but hey, who wouldn't? And she said, oh, no, just come in. It's only 1 in 10 that might have something sinister. Just come in for a closer look. Anyway, long story short, another week or so, I was diagnosed. So I bought the business. I was 4 weeks into owning the business, and I was hit with the big BC. Yeah.
My goodness, what went through your mind at that time?
When I found out, I got home, told my first boy, who he's very sensitive and knows if something's not right. So I told him, and we had a cry and a cuddle. And then when Andy came home with 2 bottles of wine in hand and little Maxie, we just cried and cried and cried. And I said, I'm not ready to die. And he said, oh, I don't want you to die. And we were just weeping with the wine. And Max just saw us and was playing his Lego, because you can't hide it. So it was just like, what the? But for me, and for cancer, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate, it's the waiting that's the hardest.
Sure. So
it's the wondering, has it spread to the nodes? Will I have to have chemo? Am I going to die? What stage is it at? So I wanted the surgery. I wanted it out of me, but then I wanted to know, what am I dealing with?
Yeah.
So that was the most difficult part, and that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And what was the process for you to overcome this battle?
Well, luckily it hadn't gone through the nodes. Do you mean medically or yeah? So I didn't have to have chemotherapy, and they took, I think, a centimetre tumour, and the margin was clear. So it meant radiation. It meant daily radiation for 6 weeks, and then recovery from radiation, and then medication for 10 years.
Wow. Yeah. And do they now just do a checkup every other?
Luckily, this year is my year that I don't go and have them. Yeah, 11 years in March. So, yeah, once you reach the 10-year mark, you go off the medication. This is for hormonal breast cancer. So, there's lots of different ones. This is probably the most common one, an estrogen-based one. You go off the medication after 10 years. And the radiation, I was lucky I didn't have any side effects. But I might add, the shop saved my life too, because I was in such a good mindset because I was doing something I loved so very much. I think psychologically it was a great space to be in, and that's why I don't think I had many side effects with the radiation and what have you.
Because you had something to get up, to show up for, to keep going.
It's so funny. I would toddle off. I'd take the kids to school, drop them, drive to the hospital, have my zap. They'd always talk about my shoes because being a fashionista, and you can't really look at anything else. You've got some big machine on you. They say, oh, I like those shoes. Oh, I sell them. And then I'd just get back in the car and go back to my shop or do my buying and just get on with life and not give it a second thought.
Yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, that was amazing. But, yeah, I'm free, 10 years free. There's no point taking the meds anymore. But, yeah, that was pretty special too because it put you into early onset rapid menopause.
Medication.
Yeah, because it was estrogen-based breast cancer.
Yeah, wow.
They have to, you take tamoxifen is what I took, and it sort of strips you of estrogen quite quickly.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah.
Your body. And at that point, did you ever think I should probably stop drinking or was it like a crutch?
It was like a crutch, and it was like this self-sabotage. Well, I've got cancer now, I might die, so I'm just going to do what I want to do and drink. And I must add, very interesting, I was never asked if I was a drinker by my surgeon, oncologist, again, like we were talking earlier. Yeah, nothing, just, they did their thing. So, but often when you go for just a general checkup, you are asked how many glasses of wine do you drink. Surely this is pretty bloody important too. So, I did still drink. Yeah.
It's Frankie's tapping me.
Would
you like to come up, sweetheart? Okay,
He's
come on.
left
Come
me.
on. There you go, buddy. All right. He's just swapping from one to the other. Can you lie
One
down?
lap to the other.
That's right. I wonder, I went and saw Dr. Gabor Mate.
Ah, that was just recently,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yes.
Oh, I missed
And
it.
he was talking about, he's a medical physician. He's done family medicine, and then he worked in the field of addiction for a long period of time, and now he's doing what he's doing now. And he was talking about how there's so much that's missed when we get asked questions in a doctor's room.
Yes.
Because it's not also just how many drinks you're having a day. It's how do you, he said, when you go in and I think he used the example of breast cancer actually, and he said how many medical doctors would ask you how you feel about yourself, what needs as a child were neglected. It's so intrinsic and it's so deep within us, and yet we kind of just take this approach, the standard medical approach. It's not, none of those other things are considered. I think we're moving, we're getting a lot better at it.
But it's a long way to go too.
And I think as well, which you touched on earlier, is our own level of responsibility to educate ourselves around this stuff as well, and to actually just stop and think, what am I putting in my body? It's maybe alcohol is the first thing that you look at, and then you start to think about, well, what about the foods I'm consuming? What inflammation is happening within my body? Like, I know you can go down a rabbit hole, but it is nice to be more empowered around those decisions and actually think about that.
Yeah,
exactly. Okay, so you mentioned that you didn't really hit a rock bottom as such, but there were these moments that were leading you to a point where you just got so fed up with feeling the way that you were feeling. Yeah. And so Christmas 2022, you reach out, you tell the people you love that you are going to, well, you tell me, was it I'm going to quit drinking, or was it I'm taking a month off? What did it look like to start with?
I wasn't really sure. I knew I had to have a break. I remember ringing Danny Carr.
Danny.
Yeah, she was so lovely. I think I reached out on on her website.
Yes.
And she, bless her, she rang me. Her and her hubby were backing a caravan out of somewhere. She rang me in between Christmas and New Year.
She's amazing.
She was so lovely to talk to. However, she said to me, I think you'd be better in the group course. And we were going away. So I said, look, I'm not sure. It was just a bit overwhelming to know you've got to quit, and I knew we were going away in January. But she was one of the big, just bless her. She was just lovely. So What was the question again? Now I've just got a bit emotional.
Yeah, no, of course. So I wanted to know, was the intention to give up forever, or was it just a little short period of time to start with, and then how did it flow on?
Yeah. I didn't really know, but I knew I had to give up forever. I just knew I had to give up as in everything. So what I did was slowly peter off. And this is what I get a lot of my ladies to do, because they get scared and very overwhelmed to go cold turkey. And so then I dropped the wine down. Like, my husband and I would have a bottle of wine, as in he'd have a glass, I'd have the rest, and then I'd have another bottle. So, I'd cut that down day by day by day by day. Plus, I just threw myself into the Team Extreme. All the podcasts, Danny's podcast, yours, I think I listened to too. Just whatever I could get, the sponge, the Quit Lit, all the books, just anything. And that just got me stopping completely after sort of 12 days. And then I thought, well, I'll give myself 6 months. 6 months and then see how I feel. But when it got to 6 months, I didn't want to go back to drinking because I was giving up so much that was good.
What were some of the good things that had started to happen?
Just liking myself more, feeling better in the mornings. That pink cloud that we can often get, even when that passed, I just, sleeping better. That took a while for me.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it did for me. Skin, all the beauty benefits, but just that relationship with yourself and that relationship with your loved ones, your closest ones, just they're much more deeper. Then there's the money you save. So I had a bank account called Sober Savings. Yes. And I mean, being a big drinker, you can get the 2-for-1 bottles for $30 and that. Well, you have that every day. That's $200 a week.
It adds
up.
So
it certainly does. So I used that money for nice, healthy rewards.
Yeah, like a massage.
Yeah.
Something
Anything.
yummy.
Or add it right up and, have a night in town, a big night. Or a big night. Without
or a holiday,
the
like we were talking about.
Yeah, holidays. That's my fun. So all of those things. So at 6 months, I didn't even, 6 months went past, like the 6-month date, didn't even really think of it. I was doing my thing. I'd started studying coaching. There's no way I wanted to have a drink because I'd lose all of that. Plus, I suppose back then too, I was scared that I might just, fall back in and just continue to drink. I didn't trust myself, but I didn't even feel like it.
Okay, I have a question about the tapering because, and this is where it becomes a really interesting conversation around, what is the difference between, say, an alcoholic and a heavy drinker or a grey area drinker?
Yes.
Because I identify as an alcoholic, and for me, moderation or tapering did not work because once I started drinking alcohol, the only way I was going to stop was if I was passed out.
Yeah.
Like I could not put the plug in the jug.
Yeah.
Just I was incapable of doing so by the end. That's what my end stage alcoholism looked like. So it fascinates me when somebody shares that they were able to just start tapering and then eventually stop. So was that challenging for you, or was it just like once you made the decision, you were like, okay, this is the approach?
What would have been more challenging is going cold turkey.
Yeah.
So knowing that you haven't completely given it up, you can have a drink tonight, Belinda. However, you're having, half the bottle.
Yeah.
So that was easier for me than going cold turkey.
Isn't it funny? I'm thinking about it now and I'm feeling like I can physically feel how hard I would have found
you
that.
would have struggled with that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, whereas the opposite, I would have struggled with what you're saying.
So it's so interesting to hear that there's two completely different approaches that can work
Yeah.
and how important it is to find the one that works for you. Okay. And then once you were on the sober train, let's say you're, 2-3 months down the track, was there anything that you were future thinking about that you were like, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to do that sober? Like, were there any events, weddings, anniversaries, anything that you were like challenged about?
No, I think I'd really learnt about grounding and staying present, which is a big thing you learn. And I just took it day by day, day by day, day by day. But I will say probably what was a challenge was not my first, because you have firsts, hey? You have
of
firsts,
course, yeah.
all your firsts. The first Father's Day was hard. We had the family there, and I was just used to getting pretty much blind drunk to escape all the family politics and dysfunction and, you know, all of that.
Yes, I do.
That was challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you do in that moment?
Drank zero wine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's actually what got me through for the first few months. I assume that wouldn't have worked for you. Was that a trigger or did that help?
So I was encouraged not to touch any of that in my early sobriety. And for me, it was really interesting because I got sober. I came out of rehab and went straight into lockdown.
Oh, yeah.
And my
Victoria.
ex-husband, well, I was living in Sydney at the time.
Oh, okay.
But it was that time when the world shut down.
Yes.
And my ex-husband didn't drink alcohol, but he was a chronic weed smoker.
Right.
And that was extremely triggering for me.
Yes.
So it didn't make any sense. I didn't need any alcohol-free stuff in the house because I wasn't socializing. I wasn't,
Yes, okay.
and he wasn't drinking. So it was kind of out of sight, out of mind. In saying that, the first social occasion that I went to was, I believe it was later that year, if memory serves me correct, maybe around September. The borders had opened for half a minute. And I went to a friend's baby shower.
Yeah.
And I bought a slab of Heineken Zeros. And I drank about 12 of them.
Yeah.
Alcoholically. I was like,
Yeah. No, I was the same.
The stomach pain that I gave myself was like, oh my God, I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's just like classic me. Like,
better than
I don't do anything.
Getting blind drunk,
That's
is it?
exactly right. I still felt okay the next day. So I've had a really interesting relationship with non-alc drinks because at periods of my sobriety, they've really helped me feel less like a square peg in a round hole. Thank you. Now these days, my fiance, he doesn't drink and he's not a fan of that. So we don't have it in the house. I very rarely would drink one. Maybe I'll have a mocktail at dinner, but I just find I don't know.
Feel
Like I just
like
prefer
it.
water now.
Yeah.
And I'm also like, I don't want to drink calories if I don't have to. So it's just, I don't know. It's just a different stage that I'm in. And, you know, that's not to say that I won't go back to it at another period of time. And again, which seems to be a bit of a theme of our conversation today, I think it's really important that you work that out for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know,
Everyone's.
it may
it's your
work, it may
journey.
not. And it could be really triggering. It could also be the thing that
Gets you through. It got definitely.
Exactly.
Well, and my husband was a drinker. He was more red, but he continued to drink. So I found in the early days, even though I wouldn't drink, red wine wasn't my go, I found having that bottle of zero white wine just got me through. And that's what I did this Father's Day triggering day. But apart from that, no. And it's funny you say that too, with the zero drinks now. I don't really have them. Yesterday I wanted to do a little reel on making fish and chips in the air fryer and sort of to bring it back to, you know, pre-sober I would have been eating fish and chips, not tasting it, and blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
And I pour a zero wine for my husband and I, and we go cheers and we have these fish and chips. And we hadn't had that zero wine in probably over a year. And it actually, I smelled it and I thought, God, this actually smells like wine. Even my son said that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no. I think the longer you go without it, unless, like you said, with the social things. But even with that now, who cares?
I know.
But that takes a while to get to that
It
point.
does, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember in the beginning I found socializing really uncomfortable. And look, do you know what? Even to be perfectly honest, I went out for dinner last night with a group of friends. I've got a really close friend here visiting from Germany at the moment, and there was 8 of us and we went for dinner and they were all drinking. And it's really interesting because I didn't want to drink. It's not that. But there is this tiny little part of me that felt, how do I describe?
Missing out or something, but you don't even know what you know psychologically or rationally. I'm not missing out on anything.
Totally.
But it's still that.
It is. There's something
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and I want to be honest about that because I don't think it's helpful to talk about sobriety and only talk about the shiny stuff. I agree. I think it's important and there is so much, you know, I wouldn't change it for anything. But gosh, at
nearly 5 years sober, I still find this stuff at times really hard. And I think that's just life stuff in general. But then I also remind myself,
what are you really missing out on?
and I can guarantee you that the other 6 people at the table, I mean, that's right, as we were getting up, I said to my best friend, I said, are you going to finish that? There was like maybe a third of the bottle left.
Oh, God.
They left it on the table.
I was, what a waste.
I was horrified.
Oh, God, no.
And then, whereas I would have taken that bottle home, I would have picked up
I
another
would have drunk
one.
it at,
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then,
get another one on the way home.
Correct. And I'd be splitting headache on a Monday morning, functioning at 30%. So that doesn't happen for them. They can
there are people that can do that. And I get that with some of my clients. They say, God, I wish I could just drink like my friend because she can just have one and leave it. But, oh well, everybody's different.
That's right. Some people wish that they were 6'5". Yeah, and then, it's just
they were blonde or brunette or short, fat. I don't know.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Just we are what we are, and let's embrace it.
Yeah, I love that. So, since you made that decision and you embarked on this sobriety journey, what have been some of the fundamental tools that you have applied that have really supported you along the way?
Yeah. I think when you mentioned earlier about our mornings and what we do, playing the tape forward about your day and what you've got, playing the tape forward, particularly early, was so good. So good. You just play this tape forward, Belinda. How are you going to feel tomorrow? You know how you were going to feel. You know this, that, and the other, and just really changing that brain, changing that thinking. So that definitely. What else helped? Immersion, total immersion, total brainwashing worked for me. And what else? Just finding things that replaced the alcohol and not replacing it with vacuuming or cleaning out the cupboard or, and it doesn't have to be, well, I'm going to go and have this massage or 3-hour treatment. Just finding little things that you enjoy. Because I had a lady the other day and she said, well, I'm stopping. She only wanted to drink on weekends or what have you, like only a little bit. But she said, I don't know what else to do. I don't know what I enjoy. And you don't. I didn't.
You got to find that out.
Yeah, that's half the fun and half the work. But the work could be harder, like trying things. So, finding things that I love and I can replace drinking with.
How has your relationship changed since you got sober?
Oh, with me and with my husband, amazing. Amazing.
That's awesome.
And with my family and with my boys, particularly my older boy. But, oh, my God, I was such a bitch to myself. I was an absolute bitch. And the alcohol's a big part of that, the shame, the guilt, all of that. Take that alcohol away and you aren't as much a bitch to yourself, but you've got to learn how to love yourself. You've got to learn. And the more self-compassion you have, everything just opens up, doesn't it? People ask, and I know you can relate, but it is worth it because they think, I don't want to sound like a born-again Christian or anything,
Totally.
But it is transformational. Of course it is, because you were numbing something, and it was a crutch for me. I was numbing other stuff. But take that crutch away and you dig deep and do the work, but it's so worth it. Yeah. So the relationship with me, huge. Still have shitty days and give myself the shits, but catch it.
How's the inner critic going these days?
She's really good.
Okay. Yeah, does she have a name?
Yeah, Cassie Critic.
Cassie Critic. I love the alliteration that you have. It's brilliant.
No, I've got the Mean Girl Mafia. So the Mean Girl Mafia, there's Cassie Critic, Shaming Shazza, Debbie Denial, Patsy Perfect. Who's the other one? Berating Betty.
Oh my goodness, I love this.
So they're just that mafia. But yeah, some days they can get loud, but I can deal with them more than I could if I was having a drink. Yeah. And I can quieten them down. And I can get curious and wonder why they're showing up. And often it's because I'm pushing the boundaries or I'm a bit scared of pushing my boundary or going to that networking event alone or just, changing careers or, that little voice. But and my relationship with my husband, 100%. 100%. And I did not expect him to stop drinking or anything whatsoever, that he just gradually stopped.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. That's so cool to hear, because it is so important, isn't it? That if you're going to make a change, it has to be for you.
Yeah.
And you cannot expect anyone else to change around you. If they do, fantastic. But you cannot have that expectation.
No.
You're the one changing, not everyone around you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And your friends, etc. You know. But really, he just gradually stopped, and then he was like, "Well, I'm going to have a drink at Christmas," and he did, and felt like absolute crap. And then the last time he drank was April last year for our son's 18th, and I have never seen it affect him so badly ever. And more mentally than physically, or physically, of course, but mentally, he was a mess for like 2 or 3 days. Ugh. Yeah, I'd never seen him like that. So that was it. He hasn't had a drink since.
Wow, that's amazing.
He might. He's turned, so I'm a bit of a, what do they call it, cougar. So he's 50 in July, so he might have a drink then. But look, that's his call. But yeah, no, we're the best of friends. We always were, but we're much better, deeper friends now.
More authentic, real connection, isn't it?
Billion%, and productive.
Yeah. I always say to people, if you're having troubles in your relationship, like absolutely couples counselling, but also just go sober together for 6 months. Like so many problems disappear. Like it's crazy.
100%.
You know, and it's because, you're not arguing, you're more tolerant, you're more compassionate, you're more patient.
You've got time to try some things together too. You're not sitting on the couch and
just
having
drinking.
the wine.
Yeah.
You can go for a walk, at night, or go see a movie, or because I wasn't a go out and drink. I was a come home and drink.
Yeah.
So you can just look, and to have your partner do it with you, awesome. But it's interesting, that ripple effect.
And Belinda, what would you say to somebody who's listening along today who is in midlife, who perhaps wants to change their career, their relationship with alcohol, their husband? Who knows?
Absolutely.
Like, what would you say? Because you've really done it all, and now you're empowering and advocating for other women to do the same. So what would you say to someone who's teetering on that point of, I'm too old to do anything different now, I'm too scared?
I hate hearing that. You're never too old. You're never too old. What would I say to them? What's the worst thing that could happen? And if say to yourself, if I don't do this, how will I feel? If I do this, how will I feel? And, if the worst thing that could happen is what? You're without alcohol for a month. That's not really the worst thing. Alcohol's always there. With your career, maybe career's a bit different. Do your research. If you want to boost up your side hustle, get that happening. But there's always a choice. Always a choice. And in some ways, like, there's so many women in their 40s and 50s that are so successful in so many ways, because we've got that wisdom and we've got a bit more. Some of us have a bit more time.
Yeah, well, I guess it's once the kids leave and you've got that empty nest, it's like, what do I do now? And then if you take alcohol out of the equation,
and that's
you do
why a lot
have
of
time.
women drink.
Yeah.
So there's the statistics, the latest ones with the ABS were women aged 44 to 54 in Australia, 26.9% drink, and then it goes up to 27.4% for women 55 to 64. So that also shows me that they need or want to make changes, but they don't know how, or they're scared, or they're this. But honestly, just give it a go. It's so worth it. And if it doesn't work out, it's because something better's coming.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful, encouraging words. All right, I have one more question for you before we wrap up today. And I would love to know, Belinda, what are your 3 non-negotiables that allow you to live your life today happy, authentic and free?
Movement every day, whatever it is. Doing my in the morning. I am love, I'm light, I'm Belinda. and being with my dogs.
Oh,
I just love them.
that's so
They just give me so much joy. Like watching. Maybe Mitch is listening, and maybe I might have a grandchild one day. Hint, hint, Mitch.
No pressure, Mitch.
But for the moment, I'll stick with my doggies, and
Yeah.
watching them look at it, like little Bella. She looks at a butterfly, and it's, that just gives me joy.
Oh, they're the
It's
best.
the three little joy things.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
100%. Frank is in my world. This
I
little
know.
mascot. Oh, my
he's
goodness.
left us now.
I know. He's had enough. He's I don't know. Oh, yeah, he's
right.
over there.
Yeah, he's having a snooze.
He's close by. He's never
Yeah.
too
Hope
far.
we haven't bored him.
Oh, Belinda, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Movement, your affirmations, and then time connection with loved ones, which are your 3 dogs, and your
And
unborn
my
grandchild.
husband and my children and my unborn grandchildren. Please, guys.
Plural. Honestly, I have a niece. She's 2,
Oh,
like just about to turn
gorgeous.
2, and my nephew is 5 months old.
Oh,
and
wow.
seeing how my parents have changed as they've become grandparents, like especially, oh my God, my dad is besotted with them.
Oh.
It's just the most beautiful thing in the world to
Yes.
witness. So I pray that happens for you soon, and I'm sure that you'll absolutely love every moment
Yeah.
of that.
Thank you.
Belinda, if people want to find out more about you, track you down, where should they go?
Instagram, Belinda Stark _ or my website is belindastark.com.
Fantastic. I will make sure that I put that information in the episode show notes. We say here on Behind the Smile that when we recover loudly, no one need suffer in silence. So thank you so, so much for being here today and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me. It's been lovely, Ash.
Thanks, Belinda.